Hi, this is Ashley, and I am here for my spoilery discussion of Morningstar by Pierce Brown. Morningstar is the third book in the Red Rising series, and I loved this book. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. I've been thinking about it constantly since I finished it, and I just love it. If you have not listened to my regular review for this, you can go ahead and check that out. I will leave a link up here. You can go and check it out. But for now, I'm going to be talking about spoilers. So if you haven't read this book, this is not the video for you. Prior to the start of Morningstar, in preparation for its release, I decided that I was going to reread Red Rising and Golden Sun. And in doing that, I found myself quickly taking notes. And that definitely carried through when I started reading Morningstar. So it actually really helped me focus on the different elements that were happening in the previous books. And it made me pick up other things that I probably wouldn't have picked up just reading through this book normally. There's a lot of things going on. There are all sorts of characters. And let's just go ahead and break this down first by characters. Morningstar is a big book. The whole Red Rising series is just big. It's expansive, and there are so many characters. There's a freaking character list, a 2-page character list that's inside this book. And those are just the big players. They're not even like the little characters that you pick up seeing them from other different moments that they've popped up in other locations and all that. One of the most interesting things that really set the tone for the very beginning of this book was the opening. Right after the prologue, chapter number 1, you are sucked in to Darrow's point of view again, and you really get this understanding that he has lost his mind, and then you find out what actually happened. And the fact that he was tortured for 3 months and then left in a marble box where he couldn't straighten himself for 9 months is kind of insane. He had to be recarved again just so he could get his size back. He had withered. He was tiny. He was thin. His bones were sticking out. And that really broke my heart. But what made things even better was the fact that when Cassius saw what Darrow had become, you could see that there was this sadness to him. And it was that bond that you constantly see between Darrow and Cassius that I really, really enjoyed throughout the entire story. Because even as Cassius betrayed Darrow back in the first book, I got this sense that Cassius really didn't want to. It upset him, and it truly got to him. And through this book, you really get to see that relationship mend itself in a way that the relationship with Roke never could. Because where Roke was this poet that was deep and inside, he was all in his head, and he had his own ideas, and that was it. Whereas Cassius looked to his brother Julian and really sought out compassion, and he admired that. And as we see their relationship slowly build together, oh my gosh, when they decided to have their little talk that one evening on the Morningstar, it was fantastic because you got this sense that you were back in that first book and the two guys were just together and really enjoying each other's company, and that the idea that one of them was going to have to die was slowly fading away. But there was still this sense that Cassius still had all this pride of being a Bologna, and he wouldn't be able to put it away. But then you see that Darrow gives Cassius the holocube, and everything just changes like that. And you don't see that right away, though, in the book. You get this moment where you're just like, wait, Cassius is betraying Darrow yet again. And it didn't feel right, and it really upset me. But then as I read on, it was really a good play because you see that it was really just all a ruse so they could get to Octavia. And Cassius has finally forgiven Darrow, and that relationship is mending. While we know that Cassius went off to go raise Lysander because he saw Lysander as another Julian, it really made me think, what is their relationship beyond this? Because he left the planet after a few weeks, and he was just gone. He no longer was on Luna. And I just have to wonder if in the future Cassius and Darrow reunite and they have their own little parties and get together and talk and reminisce. Even if there is this slight bitterness that everything kind of fell around, maybe that they could still really mend that relationship, because really the Cassius and Darryl relationship was really an interesting thing to see play out over the past 3 books. Speaking of that, my question would be if Cassius ends up bringing Lysander to play with little Pax. And yes, I said little Pax. Even though Pax is giant, I'm talking about Darrow's son Pax. That big bombshell in the Veil chapter at the very end, the fact, oh my gosh, seriously. It blew my mind. The fact that Darrow and Mustang, they actually had a kid. Like, come on. And the fact that the reason why she was testing him that whole time and trying to figure out if he was worth it and if he was going to be the kind of man who builds, the kind of man that she would want to be a father to her son, was so fantastic, because it actually brought me to tears when I was reading it. And the fact that, again, they're honoring Pax in a way that Pax was not more than just a friend to Darrow, but he was like a brother to Mustang. And Darrow named his ship after Pax, and he had to let it go, but in the end he still didn't actually have to let Pax go, because Pax is actually there. Okay, I'm getting really teary now. Composure, hold on. The relationship between Darrow and Mustang was really great, because what you really saw between them wasn't really a romantic relationship. You saw a mutual respect. You saw them working with each other and trying to better themselves. And what I really found interesting was that it was Mustang who was there by his side, who was constantly pushing him to be better. And that slowly over time, Darrow realized that while Io set him on this journey, it was Mustang who was keeping him on that journey. And that it was Mustang who believed in him and wanted him to do more. And she was there with him all along. And it was a really interesting way to do a relationship, because you're not sitting there really longing for these sweet little moments. Those weren't happening. You're just getting these raw emotions of these people dealing with real issues that are going on around them. Speaking of relationships, we also had Sevro and Victra, because that is probably the best idea for a relationship that I've ever seen. Because Sevro is this beast of a character who just kind of storms in and does things that are outrageous and ridiculous, and he has these quips, and he has this loyalty and loves his people in such a way that he's so fierce. Cat, stop. Loves his people, and he really takes on, and he becomes a red. Literally takes Darrow's red eyes that he used to have and puts them in his head. What is he, insane? And literally, I mean, Darrow called him on that. But seriously, he took those red eyes, because at first, when they first mentioned that Ares popped in and he had these red eyes, and then it was revealed to be Sevro, it wasn't exactly clear that he actually had red eyes. It just seemed like it could have been an effect. And then you learn that, nope, Sevro just had his eyes, well, one eye replaced and his bionic eye replaced with Darrow's old eyes. It's kind of ridiculous, but something Sevro would do. Also, speaking of Sevro, there was some really great stuff between Sevro and Darrow. The fact that there was this tension between them. And at the beginning of the book, I was really frustrated, and I didn't know why. And I knew that it was partially because Sevro was trying to be the leader, trying to be Ares, and trying to really take that mantle. And he felt he needed to be in charge. But then Darrow was so uncertain after feeling so beaten down that he was just letting him do things. And there was this tension as Darrow started to realize that maybe the way Sevro was handling things is not the best way. And I just really loved how that eventually culminated in them literally duking it out until they were able to finally set everything straight. And Darrow was back at the top, and Sevro was back by his side, being his right-hand man. And everything then after that just snapped back into place. Sevro was back to making quips. It was like the weight was off his shoulders, and he just became his old self again, and I really love that. And that was part of what made Victra love him even more and make that relationship really work so well, because Victra, come on. Victra is like one of my favorite characters ever. Between Severo and Victra, I really don't know which I love more. I think I love Severo a little bit more, but Victra is really close behind. She's like my second favorite character in this story because she is fierce. Girl is fierce, and I love her. The fact that Darryl refused to leave her was a solid statement to their friendship, and the fact that once she was carved and remade and able to walk again because her crazy sister like essentially paralyzed her. Yeah. Victra like decided to stay, and sure, it was mainly to get back at Antonia, but Victra was just this fierce, strong woman that was never gonna let anything stop her, and she had this great head on her, and there was just something fierce, and I love that relationship as the two were bonding together and becoming howlers. And the fact that they became howlers, that scene was actually hilarious because they literally hogtied Victra, and then they made them eat with, so Holiday was inducted as well, and they made them like eat like vipers and cockroaches, and then Victor like couldn't handle it, and she just like straight threw up on Darrow, and then he threw out, and it was hilarious. And they finally finished it, and they're in there and they're howling, and then Dancer just pops in and it's just and turns on the lights in the bathroom, and he's just like, "What are you guys doing in here?" It was hilarious, but I loved it. Loved that little bit. There were also some really great moments with Ragnar and just the Obsidians in general. The fact that we lost Ragnar had me in tears. But he really saw that there needed to be more, and that he wasn't even content with the things that Darrow was doing. He knew that Darrow could do better and needed to do better, and it was really a testament to Ragnar and what he was capable of, because we learned how he was reading and all the places he wanted to go and all the things he was doing, and there was just this pride and glow to Ragnar, and it was just so great to see. And even as he died, like, he could not let go of that memory, and it was something that Sephi, his sister, Sephi the Quiet, really had to struggle with, and we never really got to see what was going on in her head, and she wasn't really one to really talk too much, but you really got this understanding that slowly she came to really understand more than just saying that she was going to follow Darrow, but really understand what Darrow was trying to do and what her brother saw in Darrow. And as time, they like had a conflict. In particular, she tried to kill Cassius, but it was really interesting to see Sephi finally come around to things. And I also want to point out the fact that I totally caught on to the fact that Uncle Nero was not dead, because in the second book, in Golden Sun, they said that he had died, but they never recovered the body. And so I automatically assumed that, well, if you don't have a body, then he's not dead. So I was right on that. But then Jackal went and shot him in the head, and that was a definitive dead. Which led to the same thing, why I was very, very confused, and I thought that Severo had died properly when Cassius burst out and started shooting Severo. Like, seriously, I thought he was a done, because you saw the blood go out, they were yanking his head around. I thought he was dead. I truly did. But then when it was revealed that it was actually the invention that Scyther had been working on that was pretty much used to fake Severo's death, was ingenious, and I probably should have seen it coming, because it was something that they had done similarly before. But oh my gosh, I had so many emotions when I thought Severo was actually dead. It was not cute. I cried myself to sleep that night. Another interesting thing with the story was that you were really seeing all the different characters from different areas, and how it was a struggle that for the Reds to come to this new level, but it was a lot of the High Colors actually coming to acceptance and learning what they needed to do. So the fact that it was revealed that Quicksilver was one of Fishner's old friends was really great, and that he was in on the entire Sons of Ares thing all along, and he provided them with money, was a nice little twist, and also the first sign that there were plenty of other golds and silvers and High Colors in general that would be able to help and aid, and that there would be possible change in the future. It was the first sign, for me at least, that Cassius could be good. So I want to talk for just a moment about Roke's death, because it was sad, but it was also inevitable. Roke was one of the few characters, and probably the only character, that refused to see things in any different way. He was a gold, he saw that honor, and he made an oath to that, and he stuck to it. So in many ways, he was the only truly honorable gold, other than probably like Mustang and like Severo. But it was really, really upsetting, because it's, even with Roke's betrayal, like there was still this hope in the back of my head that maybe he would change his mind, because later we saw that Thistle was ready to switch back. She regretted abandoning Darrow and the Howlers, and she really truly was upset about it, and she died for it at Antonia's hand. But Roke, he stayed true. He refused to ever change his mind. And I think that it was really tragic actually seeing that, and the fact that he did it himself, and it was still upsetting to see. And it was almost more upsetting to see how everybody else reacted, because they truly felt so betrayed by him, where Roke got like this dishonorable death send-off. Thistle got an honorable one where everybody came because they saw that Thistle actually regretted things, and it was just a real stark difference between the two people that betrayed these people. The final plan that Darrow launches, I've already talked about it a little bit in that Cassius helped them, but it was a really great plan, because, I mean, there were still some holes in it that they ended up finding out thanks to the Jackal, but it was a really great plan because it really threw everybody off. It made it seem like they were falling into this trap when really they were controlling everything, and I really enjoyed seeing that play out, and the fact that Severo just popped up like, fuck, and it was hilarious, because I just kept imagining the movie Crank in my head, him just getting the drugs and just going ape shit. So it was really funny to watch that. But one thing that I did notice that while I was reading was that near the end, when they were being brought to the Sovereign for this scene here, the Sovereign said that they are to kill everybody but Daxo Telmanus. Daxo Telmanus was Cavax's son, Pax's brother, and the Sovereign for some reason wanted him alive. And it's the only thing in this entire book that I couldn't piece together. I couldn't understand why this move was made. There were no other hints anywhere. But the Sovereign wanted Daxo, and only Daxo, alive. Everybody else was to die. And I still haven't figured it out. So when I went to that signing with Pierce, I decided to ask him. And the response was pretty much that I know exactly what he wants me to know. And that's it. So right now I'm sitting there with this strange theory making going on, where I'm thinking that either Daxo was one of the spies that the Sovereign had, and maybe that's why she's trying to spare him, or the only other thing that I can think of was that she wanted a Telmanus for something. I mean, I really can't imagine what else they would need Daxo for, but it's definitely in there, and it was just a really quick, subtle line, and apparently nobody else had picked up on it, so go me. But yeah, if you have any idea why the Sovereign might have wanted to keep Daxo alive, let me know in the comments, because I'm still trying to figure that out. Right now I'm thinking that it might be related to whatever this new project Pierce is working on. He said that it's going to be announced in about 2 weeks or so, but whatever he's doing next, I will be reading, because Pierce Brown is officially one of my favorite authors ever. I absolutely love this series. It's a series that I know I'm going to read over and over again, because there's just so much to it. There's so much heartache, so much talk about humanity, what it is to be human, and hierarchies, and how things need to be structured, and how people should be treated, and pride and brotherhood and honor and loyalty and pride, and all these wonderful things that are in there that I just absolutely love this story. I'm going to stop talking now because I've been rambling on for a long time, but why don't you let me know what you thought of these books in the comments down below, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.